Hello and welcome to Capacity Reacts. My name is Saf Malik, Senior Reporter at Capacity Media. Today we're reacting to the news that SES is set to acquire Intelsat in a deal worth up to $3.1 billion, and I'm joined by Lluc Palerm Serra, Research Director at NSR. Lluc, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for joining us.
And we're also joined by Christof, Kern, Business Development Lead for Satellite and Space at TTP. Christof, pleasure to have you.
Great to be here. Thanks, Saf.
Like I said, this is Capacity Reacts. So I'm going to start with your initial reaction to this news. Lluc, let's start with you.
Thank you. So yeah, it's clearly a very important deal for the satellite industry. I think that these two companies have been discussing for a while. I mean, with some back and forth. There was some rumors last year that terminated in the deal breaking, but I think this was bound to happen at some point. There are a lot of synergies between the two companies in terms of optimizing the fleet, in terms of going after some of the key verticals for growth in the industry. So yeah, I think it makes sense in a high-level perspective that these two companies come together.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's lots of industry logic for this transaction. As Lluc mentioned, they've discussed this for a few years. Deal broke down a bit more than a year ago, probably because SES wasn't willing to pay enough. 1 year into that, I think probably the C-band revenues for Intelsat there was some conflict between two companies. So probably these revenues, that situation has settled down and made things a bit clearer. I also think that over the last 12 to 18 months, industry pressure has increased. So that probably facilitated to get the transaction done now. Also, obviously, with some changes in management. So all in all, I think it makes a lot of sense for both companies to combine it, basically creating an industry giant, or in terms of, say, FSS satellite operator revenues. I think they will probably generate the vast majority, with Eutelsat OneWeb being a distant second then.
Christof, just off the back of that, you said industry pressure. When you refer to industry pressure, what exactly are you referring to?
Well, I mean, obviously, Starlink is one pressure. It's like the industry revenues have not really evolved a lot, right? And Starlink first of all, addresses a new market. It opened up a credible consumer broadband product, which classic GEO satellite operators have really failed to deliver on. Yes, there are a few hundreds of thousands and even millions satellite subscribers also in GEO, but I think in terms of value proposition, Starlink beats that. What professional revenues, say professional solutions for mobile network operators are concerned, GEO combined with MEO can still deliver superior results. But hey, if you try to sell to a cruise ship a mPOWER terminal, and then they say, oh, instead they can buy 10 Starlink terminals and just put them up on my ship, that's also a solution. It also works, right? So in a way, I think industry in general has come to recognize, the industry in general was been a waiting game over the last 2 years and saying, okay, what's going to happen? And now they start feeling the pain. So smaller to medium-sized satellite operators starting to think about what they should do. And the big ones chose the easy way out and saying, well, let's just create an industry giant too big to fail.
No, I think I totally agree with those views. I think that they had to react to the pressure from Starlink and future pressure from Kuiper. One of the moves that these companies started to do before the acquisition was developing vertical services. So Intelsat was very strong on the aero market. After the acquisition of Gogo, they are also building managed services in the backhaul segment. On the other hand, SES was doing the same in maritime, even integrating Starlink terminals into their offer. So these companies were trying to get closer to the final customer with these end-to-end services. And that combination only makes that move stronger because they were kind of complementing each other. Intelsat focusing on some verticals, SES focusing on other verticals, and that's the way they are trying to build some entry barriers for Starlink and others. So if you are closer to the end user, you can build the service, integrate value added on top of the commoditized capacity. And that's also part of the logic behind the acquisition, I guess.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about a little bit about the market share and the new opportunities for this combined entity. We've heard kind of several words to describe this new company, calling it a behemoth of a satellite company. But what is there in terms of opportunities for market share and new opportunities for both SES and Intelsat? Christof, let's start with you.
Mm. Well, in terms of market share, to be honest, I leave Lluc to figure that one out. But I think a combined revenue of $4 billion plus is significant, right? That's probably going to be at least probably half the industry revenues for all I know. But I think new opportunities are quite obvious. So let's look for the various segments. Right, from a governmental point of view, both companies jointly will just be able to expand their network reach, right? So, yes, you may be a global satellite operator, but in reality, if a customer knocks on your door and asks for a lot of capacity, then you always need to shake your fleet and figure out, can I just serve the customers? It give you more flexibility in delivering that, let alone resilience, secure communications, high availability rates, better fleet availability. All these are key value propositions for governmental customers to deliver on mission critical solutions, right? Secondly, in terms of mobility, as Lluc has already mentioned, Intelsat has made great inroads in the aviation market, right? So at the moment, they serve about 3,000 aircraft, right? On the other hand, SES hasn't really delivered that greatly, so they were mainly focused on cruise ships, maritime sector, with the Empower fleet and O3B in general. So just think about migrating 3,000 airline customers onto Empower. I mean, the revenue synergies are obvious, right? So combined with the MEO and GEO constellation, that makes a lot of sense, right? On the other hand, SES is a great position in maritime business. So, but we all know that Empower only covers plus minus 40 degrees at equatorial belt. So, if you go for Arctic maritime ships or Antarctic even, or more outside of that reach, then you may want to fall back on some of Intelsat's capacity, which they may have. So also their mobility makes a lot of sense. Finally, fixed data services in the context of, say, 5G going forward. Having a multi-orbit strategy, having always the best capacity available, high-quality GEO capacity, very high-quality MEO capacity, and what these satellites can do is fascinating, right? You can generate thousands of beams per satellite and actually follow mobility customers. But for fixed data, you can also provide a brilliant overlay services and again, improve network resilience and availability. That's probably something Starlink can really deliver for professional services, right? I mean, also daily capacity in a given cell is limited. And if you're a mobile network operator and you need, say, 1 gigabit of throughput in a given, on one location, that's pretty difficult to deliver on a Starlink terminal, right? Finally, OSS, BSS integration of both companies. Just think about a globally operating, fully integrated resource planning and management tool, which will give you superior results, and that will ultimately reflect in better service and customer delivery. So I think if we walk through all the different business verticals, it makes sense from every single bit. There will be lots of new opportunities and potentially some revenue synergies.
Right. I agree with those views. I think that the combination of SES and Intelsat will probably capture a market share around 30% of the traditional GEO FSS business. Obviously, there will be a lot of synergies in the combination of the two fleets. You were mentioning the supply combination of both is going to be very attractive for some customers that want high level of supply in a specific spot. That's something that LEOs might have some challenges. We run some analysis in terms of the distribution of supply of LEOs versus the distribution of demand of key verticals like aero, consumer broadband, backhaul, and so on. And we find that LEOs will have some challenges serving this high concentration of demand spots. That's where the multi-orbit offers that SES Intelsat can provide will have some value added. and they can differentiate from the pure LEOs and the pure GEO operators. And you mentioned something very interesting as well, 5G. Both Intelsat and SES were very active in pushing for the integration of satellite into the 3GPP standards. I hope that the combination of these companies make that push continue and even be stronger. Would be very good for the satellite industry in general, and I think that could open new use cases like the connected car, like the IoT, and other verticals that could generate a lot of growth for the satellite industry in general.
Yeah, we've seen consolidation across the space, guys, pardon the pun. And I just wanted to ask either of you about any potential regulatory hurdles, because there's several deals across the telecoms world that are all having to combat the same problems in terms of regulation. So do you expect any potential regulatory hurdles in the coming future for this deal? Lluc, shall we start with you?
Yes, that's a key point, and it's not easy in the satellite ecosystem to see these large mergers because there is the strategic interest of satellite communication that governments are sometimes a bit reluctant to give away the control on the companies. But I think that in this case, we see a lot of competition coming to the market, Starlink, Kuiper, and others. I think they spread some concerns in key clients, seeing challenges in the combination of the companies, but they seem to be fine with that as well. So I think that eventually I don't foresee any major regulatory barrier for this. It will obviously take some time for this to close, but I think that there won't be any major concerns in that sense with all the competition coming to the market.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with the assessment as well. It's at the end of the day, it's all about market definition. And let's remember that Intelsat is actually a result of the Intelsat-Panansat merger, right? Which previously has also bought LoRa's Skynet fleet. So there was at the time, a huge market concentration in North America in the video business in particular. So what they did is redefine the market. Hey, let's include fiber and all the fiber contribution links to all the stadiums. They will now go via fiber, not via satellite, right? So if you broaden the scope and define the satellite industry, including Starlink, PK, and other startups, or even a larger satellite industry definition, including new space and whatnot, I think it should clear regulatory hurdles. But yeah, it will still require some explanation. I think that's why, given say 12 to 18 months going forward for the transaction to close, that's why they've given the transaction a lot of time, because it will require some explanation.
Lluc and Christof, thanks for joining us today. That's all we have time for, unfortunately. I know we can speak about this topic forever.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. It was great being here.
For more, you can visit www.capacitymedia.com or follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter @CapacityMedia. Until next time.